is Unfiltered Part 4, I guess. Something that I was asking you earlier was why are farmers not more inclined to come together, unify, and find solutions? Obviously, we know there's few buyers and lots of sellers, lots of farmers. And especially because they span across lots of different cultures and languages and things like that. But there still seems to be a struggle for even in individual regions for farmers to bond together and take a little more control over their coffee, their prices, how things are done. I'm curious to hear why you think maybe that doesn't exist as much as it could or should.
Sure. Well, I have to say that everybody's different, and I can't generalize about them. I don't have data, of course. But I mean, my experience being around here doing this for a long time is that a lot of times there are just other needs that get in the way. So I think there are things that farmers can do to improve their.
Unfiltered. Hey, it's here.
Yeah, unfiltered. So the things that I think farmers can do to improve their bargaining power situation in this value chain. One of them is working together, putting together their volume, putting together their collective voice to go up against buyers who are much bigger, who have much more options of producers that they can work with. That don't really need to worry about losing the interest of producers because there's so many other ones. If that's what they want to do, and one of those is forming co-ops and different organizations like this.
Buenas.
Buenas.
Caballeros. Les traigo exquisitas papas rellenas, les traigo hamburguesas.
Ay, muchísimas gracias. La verdad, acabamos de almorzar. No tenemos hambre en el momento. Le agradecemos muchísimo. Que esté muy bien. Gracias. Filtered. So there's this. There's also like making agreements with other folks. We've been talking about making agreements with roasters in different areas to get some stability, to be able to know what to expect and reduce their vulnerability to the volatility of the market, and just like basically whatever the other folks down the line want to throw at them in the time when they need to sell coffee. And folks that have tried to do stuff like this, like myself, for many years, and a lot of the people I've worked with, roasters, development organizations, and these kind of things, always criticize small farmers of coffee and other things for being opportunistic. I hear this word all the time, very opportunistic, like saying, okay, like I'll go along with whatever somebody's proposing because it's probably a better deal than like a terrible deal that they get. But then when a better deal comes along, saying, oh, I'm going with that one. Or like, okay, let's make a co-op, let's make an agreement to all turn in our coffee here and then see if we can get a better deal, with a bigger volume going at these buyers as a more important supplier. But then, sometimes things happen, price might rise, somebody else comes along and offers a better price, or a lot of times it's like has to do with loans. So I'll give you this loan if you turn in your coffee to me later, or I'll give you this anticipo, this like prepayment for a part of it. And a lot of times people will do it. And then the criticism is, oh no, just so like short-term mentality, so opportunistic, so treacherous, even I've heard be said. And I mean, this is not completely false. But the situation a lot of times is that people are really stuck. They are really suffering because they don't have an even higher price. Like, okay, we can do a co-op and we can make agreements with roasters and we'll go from extreme poverty to really bad poverty. But then if some opportunity comes along to possibly get out of poverty altogether, and it means having to leave your co-op or turning in coffee aside from the agreement that you made with somebody, which I mean was probably an agreement that guaranteed some level of poverty anyway, you kind of have to do it. This is a family pressure. Like I've talked to farmers about this before and said like, well, we didn't have anything to eat. I couldn't pay pickers. I couldn't buy my kids' school books that I hope will go back to school. So I took a loan from this buyer in town because I didn't hope to do it, but something came up. I needed to do it in order to be able to keep things going. So I think like the sheer need, the scarcity that people are experiencing, um, can overwhelm the desire to collaborate, to participate in a collective way, to support one's own community and social group, which is a desire that inevitably exists, like it does in most places, just because of the scarcity that's being experienced. That option is really just not acceptable based on the family economy. So that that need will kind of destroy this cooperativism, this community mentality. And I mean, after this happens for many years, this history of marginalization and scarcity kind of changes the way people even think about the possibility of working in a collective way. And the people that show up and try to do these things just get tired of it and say no, no sirven para eso. They can't do it. It's a waste of time. And this is like, I talk to specialty coffee buyers, like, we're not actually friends, but folks I deal with, you run into at trade shows and whatnot, and I hear this all the time, like, what are you doing, trying to like get these guys to work together to make this kind of agreements? That's stupid, because I mean, yeah, they've tried it and they've seen that farmers sometimes don't comply, but probably didn't take the time to think of why that is, what other needs might be coexisting with the desire to be a part of a community.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes sense that social life, which I would lump in the idea of collectivism or even unifying around a cause, is not something that comes at the low part of Maslow's scale of needs, and so they can't even put food on the table. And that seems to be even more of an issue now with things like cost of production being higher because of fertilizer and things like that. So not much of a light at the end of the tunnel there, but yeah.
Yeah, that's it. But I mean, I think people are social. They are. There's a desire to be a part of a community and have good relationships with people around you. But when it's a matter of preserving relationships with neighbors and old friends, or having your kids eat, then kids eat is always going to win.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. What is the end of that? Maybe cut people some slack if they're on hard times. Try to understand each other's situations. I mean, it's okay for someone, like, the price might change, and someone in a very comfortable position could not throw away their agreement to get a little bit better deal if they don't need that deal to be able to survive. And when it comes to like coffee farmers and coffee roasters, those situations are most of the time very, very different.
Sit on that.
Get mad. Get mad, Priest Coffee.